must have in their, if you call it their tool chest or their tool bag, that they need to be able to do on a consistent basis, okay? And they need to have agility, they need to have block protection or block destruction, okay? And they have to be able to go make contact and tackle people, okay? So the way that I set up a lot of my DB drills are with those things in mind. So I'm kind of going to stop for a second and just talk about how I set up a practice, okay? I set it up with a 5-minute increment in mind. Now, like today at camp, there was no, how many people were at camp today? Okay, there was no periods, right? So in my mind, I had to guess about when 5 minutes was up, and then I would move to the next drill. So when coaching DBs, or any position for that matter, I would try to think in terms of periods. So 5-minute periods. So depending on how your practice is set up, you need to take into account those 3 things in those periods. Okay, how are you going to get DBs to move correctly? Okay, how are you going to get them to break down tackles? Okay, and then how are you going to teach them to tackle? Okay. So I usually will grab 2 or 3 of those things. I get on a typical practice day, I'll get 20 minutes. Okay, so that's 4 5-minute periods that I get to break down into what I want to teach those guys in those periods. Okay, and then if we have an inside run period, that gives me about another 15 minutes. Okay, or 3 periods to put something in to teach them, okay? So that's kind of how I get my ABCs, if you will, okay? Agility, blocking, and contact into my practices, okay? So, a couple of things. The first thing is I always teach man, okay? At the heart of DB, you have to take away their best receiver, one-on-one. There's coverages and there's schemes and there's that sort of thing, but at the heart of it, okay, if we can't play man and man a guy up, it's basically like pitch and catch in the backyard, okay, or the quarterbacks and receivers throwing routes on air. It's easy for them, and it's our job to make that pretty difficult. So I always teach man, and today in my DB drills, that's literally all we got through was man stuff today. But here's the big thing, okay? You need to give the receiver a surface area, okay? So I'll use shoulders and chest, okay? You want to give them a surface area that they have to run around, okay? If I line up on you and I'm going to play DB on you, and I tilt, and I'm in man, and I tilt, I've already given you a way around. Does that make sense? Yeah. So in man, in cover 1, man, I want to be square. Okay? And I want them to have to run around me, essentially. Okay? Because by bailing or opening hips, if you read that, okay, it decreases your body surface area, okay, and allows receivers to stack. Okay? How many people have played DB before? Okay. How many, and that's okay, sorry. And how many have been beat by a receiver? Very good. Everybody should raise their hand, okay? Because that's going to happen. Now, how many times did when the receiver beat you, did he get back in your path? Okay? That's called stacking. Okay? So once they get around you, they're going to get right back on top of you and run the route. Okay? If you get stacked, you're in big trouble. Okay? Coach in the back there is a receiver coach, and I'm sure you talked about stacking DBs and stuff today in camp, right? So that's the number one thing that we have to eliminate. And we've got some drills to show you on how not to be stacked. Okay? And man, this is Darrelle Revis. Anybody watch the NFL? Revis Island. Okay, this is what I would say is probably one of the best DB stances. I went to Google and I Googled it, okay? That's about exactly where you want to be. Feet, shoulder width apart, wrists, okay? I always say anchored to the knees, okay? He's ready to go. He's got a flat back. His eyes are up. He's ready to play. He's ready to go in any direction that receiver is going to go, okay? So that is, and you'll see in some of the film, that is where I want my guys to be, okay? In that type of position, in that type of stance. And it's one of those things that you as a coach, okay, are going to have to teach them day one. And for the most part, today when I talk through this with some of the DBs, they picked it up already. So whoever's been coaching those guys have been doing a pretty good job.
You vary from like your feet positioning. Like, do you do a toe-to-heel relationship, or you square toe-to-toe, or does it depend on your alignment and those types of things? I mean, a lot of that probably will, but
yes.
What's your philosophy on that?
My philosophy in man is square. I got to be able to go in any direction. I don't get any help, okay? As a DB, as a corner. Sorry, I should have said not as a DB.
Right.
As a corner, I get no help, so I've got to be able to go in any direction. So I play square. The only time that I don't play square is when I'm playing zone, because I have help. Okay? So in zone, we typically read other people. Okay, we'll read through receivers, which I'll get in a second, and we'll tilt. We'll tilt and we'll read through guys. But for the most part, we're pretty square, because when we tilt, we're still going to stay square.
Not so much tilt. I'm talking about like just your feet, like within your stance.
Oh yeah.
Like, because like Darrell Rivas, his feet are aligned. Basically,
square.
He's here, you know. Or do you stagger your feet?
It would be a slight stagger.
Okay.
A slight stagger. And I'll be honest with you, I don't coach that probably as hard as I should.
Right.
You'll see in my practice film with my DBs or my corners at home, some guys will have a very square stance, slight stagger, barely. Some will have an extreme one. It's kind of their comfort zone, and where they kind of line up. So here's some of my agility stuff. Okay. Now I know when you think of agility, you don't necessarily think about just backpedaling drills, but we weren't taught to run backwards. Okay, that's not natural. We have to practice that and repeat that all the time. So I use a 10-yard pedal drill, where literally you're pedaling for 10 yards, and that receiver is running at you at a pretty good speed. They don't have to be full speed, but you're practicing staying square. You're practicing staying on top of that guy for 10 yards. And the reason for that is we want to be able to break up on everything. If we get into chase mode with any receiver, we're in trouble again. Okay? So we want everything in front of them. The only thing we should turn and run with are fades, posts, and that sort of thing. Everything else, I would like to be able to break on the ball. Okay? So that's why we work a 10-yard pedal, a 10-yard pedal weave, and a 10-yard pedal run, or turn and run. Okay? And then we'll work our press techniques. Okay, mirror dodge and our press. Okay, so I'll show you some of this, some of the film we have here. Some of these guys are young, so I'm still teaching them. So the beauty of showing this film is that these guys are not perfect, and they still have to be coached and they still have to be taught. But you get to see kind of what we look like in the States. Okay. So this is the 10-yard pedal drill, okay? They're just pedaling to stay on top. Notice they're not turning, okay? One of the guys kind of got off to the side. Try to stay square as much as you can, but just stay in that pedal. This has single-handedly changed our corners. Before, we used to not be able to recover comebacks. That was basically a 10-yard handoff. And this year, I coached safeties last year, and I bumped to just do corners this year, and I'm telling you, that drill alone has kept guys square, have kept guys patient. They don't turn and too early and then have to break again to come back. It's been beneficial for our corners. So I have a couple of these drills here just so you can see. Okay, some guys are dogging it and not going as hard as they can. Here's the weave. Okay, so tendency is a young DB. Okay, receiver comes out. He may head and eyes one way, break the hips a little bit to make another move. Young DB will turn early, turn his hips early to that head and eyes. Okay, we want to weave with those head and eyes. Okay, so as he's maybe given this to go to a post or a slant or something, all we want to do is just weave with it a little bit, just a weave. That way we're not getting ourselves in a bad position or opening our hips too early.
I also call it, I call it weave, but just like another term that you can use is steer with your butt.
Yeah.
Point your butt in the direction that you want to go. Just another way of identifying what you're wanting.
Yep.
And it's really good to have a receiver running to force them to move. I don't do that. I haven't been doing that, but I see it because then you get a feel for why you so that's good. I'm going to use that.
Yep. That's all this is for. So you can see on this drill right here, we're back to the top. Okay, this is just our 10-yard pedal. This is without pads and helmets. Okay, just a practice day. You can see today I didn't chew them out, but I was like, you're not helping yourself by going slow. You need to give the other guy a look, so you can see they're running a little harder. I think we're back to the top. Here's a little bit more weave. Just a coaching point on that. You can see here, this group needs to be wider. Otherwise, we run into each other. So again, you can kind of see his stance. Okay, he's got a slight stagger here. He's bent way too far over. Okay, he's totally exaggerating the flat back. But his stance is pretty good. I'd rather his elbows be in and his hands be in here. Okay, but you can kind of see the staggers in there. And this is the turn. Okay, so here's a couple things that I teach on the turn. Okay, can you guys see? Watch 24 here. Okay, when he's pedaling, opens, turns. See how he kind of collisions him a little bit, but he's a little awkward. What we want to do is we want to lean. Okay, we want to lean on the guy. So the other thing that we're wanting to do is we want to work hand over hand. So if you'll, we're going to be like right in the camera. Okay, so and I'll kind of demonstrate with him here. If I'm the DB, okay, he's going to be running like this. All right, and now I'm squeezing, leaning on him. I want to hack this hand down as many times as I can. Now, why is that? Does anybody know?
It messes up the other runner's motion.
Exactly. You're messing with their stride. Okay? So everything is connected in the body. As you're running, if you bump a hand, he's going to stutter step and then keep going, right? Well, if I keep hacking his hand, okay, he's going to keep stuttering and he's going to have to start fighting you. He's not faster. While we're doing that, we're also leaning on him, okay, to push him to a sideline. So the worst case scenario, thank you. The worst case scenario for us, okay, obviously is the deep ball, the fade, okay? And what a receiver wants to do, what a receiver wants to do, if this is the edge of the numbers and the sideline, is they want to run that fade right up those numbers and then fade to the ball. So they have all that space to work with as that ball's coming in. Well, we want to lean on that receiver to push him further to that sideline. We want to give him this much room to catch that ball as opposed to all the grass. Okay? So that's the kind of the key points that we're looking at here. We want to hack the arm down. We want to lean on the guy as he's running. Okay? All right. This is the last one here. You can see even in some of these turns, and it's something that I'm going to have to work even in camp with you guys, or some of those guys tomorrow, is false steps in a turn. we talked about, even in our pre-warm-up, about pedaling, opening, and running. Even here, I have one guy who does the same thing. He will open and he almost hops and then runs. And that's like false steps. He's hurting himself. He's slowing himself down rather than opening and just running with the receiver. So that's something that even these guys have to get better at as far as being fluid, opening, and running well. All right, so here is our is a press man drill, okay? And none of these guys are particularly good at it. But it's something that we have to work at continually, and we get better and better and better as we go. The key here with our press drill, okay, is we are trying to mirror the receiver. Remember I talked about surface area, okay? I want to stay square on him as long as I can. So my goal in this drill here is teaching the feet, okay, to stay square for as long as possible. That guy may jump outside, stay square. Make him come back inside. You can't do this forever, okay, because he's going to eventually break you down and beat you, okay? But initially, if you can make him move off his first step or second step and jam him up, okay, you're at least getting time, because if you're in this situation, you're blitzing. You're sending somebody to the quarterback. And you're trying to give those guys more time to get home.
Are you press man when you're blitzing?
We do.
Okay.
We do. We'll press them up. We try to disguise as much as possible. So we'll play man from depth, which is why I do all the pedal drills, because we got to be able to cover. But if it's a situation where we want to get pressure and we don't want them to have a free access throw, we want to be on top of them, we'll press them. And my rule as a coach, especially when we do one-on-ones, we do a lot of one-on-ones in practice. Every day we do at least do 5 minutes of one-on-one. And, you know, the easy way out is pressing. You don't have to work on much fundamentals other than getting in the way and then running with the guy. So I make my guys go 2-to-1. So they have to cover from depth twice before they can press. So, and what has ended up happening with these guys this year is they'd rather cover. They feel more comfortable at 5 to 6 yards covering a guy than pressing. And believe it or not, this is why. I rip their rear ends when they do stuff like this and they don't move their feet. Okay? So I really try to coach their feet before their hands. You were in my running back drills. It's the same thing. Move your feet before you try to punch. Anytime you add hands to a drill, that's the first thing people want to do. They want to get those hands out there and get them. Your feet and your base are going to help 100% with that. So this is how I start, and I try to keep things in a progression. Okay, so we did a 10-yard pedal, 10-yard weave, 10-yard open turn and run. So in our press progression, okay, we're square with no hands, moving our feet. Okay, and as they get by us, you can see right here he got scorched. As they get by us, okay, we don't have any hands, but we're still going to lean. We're still going to lean in on the guys, okay, and try to knock them off the route a little bit, okay. Again, some of them aren't perfect. If you watch the middle guy here, that's something he has to get better at. All he does is hop. He doesn't necessarily chatter his feet or move to get in the way. And it's not a back pedal. See how he's backpedaling? He shouldn't be backpedaling. See, this is better. But he doesn't get in the path. He at least is ready. I wish his hands would be inside here, okay? And he needs to move this foot and that one over, all right, initially to stay square in front of that receiver. That's better. You see? Can you guys see how you can see how kind of these guys progress? Yeah, not every rep's perfect, okay? But you can see this one was much better. He's a young guy for me. He's only a sophomore. And I think he's going to end up being pretty good for us down the road here. He played as a freshman on our varsity team. So I don't know what the equivalent here is. That would be like a 14-year-old playing on the 19-year-old team, right?
Yeah.
Or the 17.
Well,
The 17 team.
17.
Yeah.
17 team.
The first year U15 playing U17.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Here are some of my my breaking drills. So we do a break at 45. Okay, and you'll see here these guys, just like anybody else, they'll anticipate my movement. Okay, they think once they get beyond 5 yards, it's time to break. Okay, so you'll see them. They get better as it goes. But this is a good drill to work on cutting off routes, and I'll show you some of our practice film on how we break up on some stuff. The key here. You can kind of see them hesitating a little bit there, like it's time, it's time, it's time. It's like the ticker's going off in their head. See that? Okay. So there's some young ones in there. But the key that I had to talk to these guys before practice, it was Wednesday, is they're shortchanging themselves. They're not giving themselves the best tools to be successful. You can see in their breaks, they're kind of slow out of the break, kind of just doing the drill. And the reality is, when you get put into a one-on-one situation, or you get put into a real live situation, you're going to want to break out fast. You're going to want to do things the way you think they ought to be done to be successful. And when you're storing up reps, you're teaching your body how to do things, and you do them slowly in your repetitions, you're going to do that slowly in your one-on-ones. So it's something that they have to work every rep to get better at. These are my 5-yard, 10-yard cuts, okay, or breaks. So right now, this guy doesn't know where this kid is going to break. Okay, he gets to choose in or out, in, or he can go up to 10 yards and break in or out. Okay, either or, but it's a 5 or a 10. So that DB, he's got to read those hips. He's got to read it and then break. So you can kind of see he's cheating the drill a little bit. He knows he's past 10. He knows that kid's got to make a break. But you'll see in our one-on-ones how much it helps. Now, here's a kid. He's a senior, kind of a late bloomer. He's planting off the right foot, but you can see that he kind of gets off balance. See how far out that foot gets? When it gets that far outside of your body, a couple things are going to happen. Okay, you'll either slip and fall. Okay, if you're on grass, all right, or if you're in turf like we are, you'll end up rocking back just a little bit. And that rock, even though you may have done everything else right, that little bit of a rock is going to give that receiver a step. So it's just one of those little things that I always coach our guys on, or have been coaching them on, to get better at. And you'll see guys, some guys will snap out of them pretty decent.
I call it staying within your framework.
Yep.
If I say that to a kid, they know what I'm saying. If you step too long, or
Yep.
we have the same exact problem.
So here's this kid here, okay, and he's late. And here he is on the next one. See the difference? Okay? So you can see that the more reps they get, a little better off they become.
Coach, what's your finishing point for this drill? Is it the break, or is it the actual contact that they make at the end?
No, this is all about the break. These are all focused on the break. Yeah, I tell them to run through the upfield shoulder, but I'm not telling them to go through and swat anything. All I'm working on is seeing those breaks. Okay. So here's the 5 to 10 minutes that we get each practice. Okay, this is our one-on-one set. So yep, there's no help. It's just you and the camera with the receiver, right? Okay. So you can see this is a young, we call them junior varsity kids, JV kids. Okay, this is a young JV kid who's putting together his breaks. I mean, if anybody's teaching DB, can you live with that? I can live with that. Okay, right? That's a pretty good break, and he's not one of our better ones, but he's a guy that's bought in and he's getting better. Okay. Here is member number 24. He was a young guy that's bent way over. Okay, he's going up against one of our best DBs. Okay, now we have some new filmers this year, so I apologize. Some of this film is pretty lopped. It'll be like really long at the beginning, and then we'll miss the end of the play. So I apologize. But my point is, this drill right here brought in 2 things that we've worked on: the 10-yard pedal. Okay. Look where he was at. Okay, see where he's at right there? He started at about right here. Okay? That guy right here that's running this route, he runs a 4.4. Okay, he's the best receiver we got. And he stayed on top. This guy right here, my hand to God, I swear he runs a 5.140. I swear to you. Okay? He is one of the slowest DBs we got. He looks like $1 million. Okay, but he's one of the slowest ones we got. But what his strengths are is anticipation. He's very good at anticipating things. But that drill of 10-yard pedal kept him square and kept him on top. His break helps him, and the film gets cut. Okay, but he gets that ball out. That's our best receiver, and he makes a play on our best receiver. Okay, so what I'm saying is those drills that we do are now showing up where we need it to show up. Okay, in a setting where all odds are against you. When it's one-on-ones, okay, and they're running posts and digs and comebacks, that's tough. That's really tough to win those consistently. Okay, and when you see a young guy like that, he's a JV guy. When you see a young guy like that make a play like that, you're like, okay, now you kind of have an idea. In my mind, it helps me solidify, okay, I think what I'm doing is right. If it's not showing up, I've got to go make a change as a coach. Does that make sense? Because, I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a second, okay, just talk. As a coach, it's real easy to drill. To drill. Just because you have 25 minutes of individual to go drill somebody. Okay? But you need to find drills that apply to that situation. That's the next step in getting better. Okay. So again, this is a we call it a half skelly. We'll call it 2-on-2. Don't count. We have 3 defenders out there. Well, the offense always complains. Hey, it's supposed to be 2-on-2s. How come you put 3 guys out there? I said, well, you get a quarterback. So they get 2 receivers and a quarterback. That's 3, right? We should be able to have a linebacker. So anyway, so we'll work our half skelly stuff. This is we were in cover 2. Okay, so this puts my corner here as a flat defender, and he's supposed to be reading number 2. Well, number 2 runs somewhat of a vertical inside route, so he stays with 1. Okay, and he could have let him go. Okay, because there's nothing threatening his flat. His guy went vertical, kind of, and B, he at least stays within the play and makes a break on the ball. It's insignificant, but again, this is a varsity player here, okay, and he's making a play on the ball to disrupt it, okay? Another great break, okay, up here by our corner. If you watch him, Kid makes a slant. You can see already his path to intersect that receiver. Okay? And he comes down, puts him on the ground. Now, I'm not sure. They play by the same rules as us, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, this guy's borderline illegal. Okay? It's, as long as the ball, you can see where the ball's at right now. As long as the ball is not out in high school football in Indiana, okay, you can knock anybody to the ground. You can't hold anybody, okay, ever. But you can knock anybody to the ground. Okay? That's not a penalty. Okay? So, knocking this guy to the ground is something that I applaud. However, I will then be the negative guy that will then yell at him if it's a 15-yard penalty or after the ball's gone. Okay? So it's a double-edged sword. And I tell them, like, just be smart. Okay? But that's okay. The purpose of this clip here is just to show his break. Okay? Again, part of where the drill comes into a real-life situation. This guy is a pup. I'm talking, he's still wet behind the ears, okay? First year ever playing DB, okay? He's a safety. I could show film. He'll stand here, okay? And they'll run a post, and he'll watch it, okay? Go over his head. However, he's bought in to some of the drills, okay? And he's not very fast, but he at least makes a break. He doesn't deflect that ball. That ball is caught. Okay? But you can see his break, come back to the ball. He's at least got a chance. Okay? Again, trying to show some of the young guys and how they're getting better and developing them up. Okay? I put this one in here. This is an older guy. Okay? You can see right here his cushion. And you can see how he gets off balance. This is what I was talking about. This is where you want a slight weave and then break. Okay? He gets caught. He drives on it, but he's late. See the difference in just being that close. Okay? Again, same thing here. Okay? Again, he's late. You can see, if I can scroll it back just a hair, you can see how late he is out of that break. Okay? So again, it's something that we work on continually. Here is a decent break. It could have been better. He maybe had a chance to pick it, okay, but he rounds this off. Okay, so if you kind of watch, again, I'm sorry for the film, but if you see that, see how he rounds that off? And look where he finishes with the ball. Now that's caught too. Alright, so he should have picked that thing off if he doesn't round his break. Okay? Again, here's another comeback. And we were in man here. Okay, you can see how tight he played to that hip. Okay, again, sorry for the film. But you can see he's in man, he gets a little bit behind, makes the break, takes the comeback away. This is pretty choppy. But this is coming back. This is a curl flat. Okay, we're in cover 3. So here's your flat route. Okay, and that curl is going to open right back up in this window. Okay, so you're going to see him break and come back to the ball. And he didn't pick it. That's why he plays DB. Okay, can't catch.
I'm right.
Yeah, we've all been there. I played DB too. I couldn't catch either. Okay, any questions over that stuff before I move on or show anything else about man or press and that sort of thing?
In man, when you don't play press, it's like what yardage your cornerback stand on?
Great question. I like to be at 6 yards. Okay, so and the reason for that is I always give them I always give them a range, okay? 5 to 6. And there, I mean, almost without a doubt, I don't tell them to do this. I just kind of see where they go. It's always about 6 yards. They end up at 6 yards almost every time. And I think that's about appropriate. When I do my 10-yard pedal drill, I put them off at 6 yards. Okay? So that's where I put them in man. And I also put them at the same spot for cover 2 and cover 3. My idea in that is to not disguise or to not give away what coverage we're playing. Okay? Now we may give it away in how we open and that sort of thing, but as far as distance or depth off the line of scrimmage, that's where we're going to be. Okay? Good question.
How long would you leave until you break the route? Like, is there a...
That's a great question. That depends, I think, on the person. My 5'2", 40 guy, okay, his open might be a lot earlier to stay on top of a receiver than my guy who runs 4'6". Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that's why the drill is so important. It gives them a chance to feel that out. And again, you know, you get burnt, but you learn. If you open too early and you get to run and they run a comeback and it's like, oh, you know what I mean? Or a curl or whatever. So it's one of those things that I think the more reps you give them, the more comfortable they become in knowing exactly where that is. I mean, you could say, well, if he breaks your 3-yard cushion, well, that guy's a 4'4", I'm a 5'2", that's too much. 2 more steps from him and he's already beyond me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's a great question. I don't know that I have the best answer.
Well, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
Just work it out in practice, and then you'll get a feel for when you need to break.
Exactly, exactly. And then working on the breaks, giving them that that technique. Yeah.
When you were working in the in a press man situation, are you lining your guys up mirrored, straight up?
Square.
Square?
Yep. Now you can, the reason that I go square is because I get no help anywhere. If I knew I was going to get help, so we have a cover 1, high hole, low hole type defense. That means my safety's got the high hole, okay, anything that goes to the center he's going to help on, and our linebackers, okay, have the low hole, which they're going to help our Sam linebacker or outside linebacker and our strong safety. They're going to get help. So they'll align outside. Does that make sense? And they'll take that outside shoulder away, and they know they got help inside. Where my corners are, they get no help. Even if they ran double slants, who's the linebacker going to help? That the strong safety or slot, or my number 1 receiver out there. The number 1 receiver, you're never going to get help from a linebacker inside in that defense. Does that make sense? So we go square so that way we got to move our feet, okay, and we're not getting pinned in one way or the other. Rules in true man would say, take away the inside, align inside, and force them out. The only problem with that is if you align on the inside and they go inside, sometimes DBs have a tendency to lock hips. Sometimes DBs will get a stagger stance and open hips because they think, because I'm playing man and I'm taking it away, I've already won it. And you haven't won it. And what our receivers do when they see us press and they have a slant called, this is exactly what they'll do. They'll run 2 steps this way. Okay? So we move and we run, and then they cut right back inside of us. And we get locked hips and they'll bust us. So I try to stay square. They move. We got to move our feet, jam them up, flatten them out as much as we can, and then run with them. So that's my philosophy. It's probably not one that's, I don't know. What do you think, Coach?
We're a little bit different, and it's based on philosophy. Like our corners are going to be inside leverage out of a man technique, and we're trying to funnel everything out. And but we have the same problem. You know, if you're going to a slant, you know, we call it a diamond release. If you're a receiver, I'm going to take you 2 steps out. As soon as you flip your hips, I'm pushing you through and I'm coming back across your face.
Yep.
You know, so it's, you know, if you're a good corner and you're able to, what he's saying, keep square as long as you can and you can ride and not commit, then you're in better shape.
Right.
But our whole general philosophy is make him fight like hell to get back across my face. You know, so when I say inside leverage, I'm taking my outside foot and I'm splitting the crotch up through your face, you know, and I'm punching with my outside hand. So, but I mean, you can run it in various ways. It's just depending on what your philosophy is and what you want to do.
He just said something that's really, really important, and I'm gonna have to use you again, okay? In press, okay? So when you're pressing a guy, okay, and let's say he goes this way, okay? We want to punch with the backside hand, okay? The reason we want to punch with the backside hand is if I punch with this hand, what am I doing with my right hip? Anybody box? Anybody box?
Yeah.
So if you throw,
Punch you.
well, you're using your hip, right? You don't know it, but everything in your body, again, is connected. So I'm going to throw that punch, and I'm locking that hip. So if I throw that punch, what's he going to do? He's going to swap my hand off, and you can see where I'm at. I've got to do a lot to now catch up. Does that make sense? So if he goes out there, I want to punch this way, that opens my hips in this direction. Does that make sense? Okay? So it's really important to know which hand to throw and hit him with. Okay? And the other part is where you hit him. Notice I was hitting him right on his chest. That's where you want to hit him. That's where you flatten him out. If he gets out here and I hit him on that shoulder, I might get him to bump a couple steps, but I might bump him further away from me. Does that make sense? So we want to punch him flat on the chest, flatten him out as much as we can, and then get to that hip. Okay? Make sense? Okay. Coach, do you teach anything different?
No. We talk about a lot of step replace, like your feet. Your feet are very important, just like what you were talking about early on. You can punch all you want, but if you're not bringing your feet with you, you're dead in water. And like closing your hip out or locking your hip, that's where you get into trouble. And we say, you know, if I'm punching with my right hand, I'm also stepping, and then I'm going to step replace with the opposite foot. So I'm stepping with my right, and I'm replacing where my right foot came with my left. Okay? So I'm moving almost laterally with the receiver as he's going, so it allows me to open my hip if I need to.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
And I will tell you one other thing for a young DB is they will always look back to the ball. Okay, they get beat. Their guy's 2 steps ahead of them. They'll do one of these things to see where that ball's coming out at. The minute you do that, you just lost 2 more steps, and you have no idea what that receiver's doing. He may have broke again. He may have ran a comeback, and you're doing this. You don't know. You don't know where he's at. Okay, so if your DB ever gets beat, don't tell him anything else but run. Chase him and run. Okay, that's all he's got left. That's all that's left in the tank in press coverage after he's gotten by. Okay, and you're putting that receiver, if you will, and that offense in the only thing that they should have left, and that is a long ball. As far on the outsides as you can get them. Okay, that's the whole philosophy, in my opinion, of press or press man. You want to make them throw the ball the furthest distance to get a completion. Okay.
And even, you know, like some of our varsity guys too, when they get beat, you know, their first reaction is to look back.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's one of the hardest things we teach. When you're beat, we always say chase the hip.
Yep, chase the hip.
We tell them to put their eyes on the hip of the guy that's beat them, and I'm going to catch their hip. So we try to visually give them a key to chase. Instead of having their eyes look back, look at the hip and go chase that. Because we play what's called a hip and hands. You know, I'm watching the hip, and as soon as their hands start to shoot, that's when I'm going to come up. So I'm trying to get back to that hip where my eyes are supposed to be when I'm hip to hip with them, and then hands and when they show.
Absolutely. Good questions. Any other questions about that? Just to kind of go back to that first slide that I was showing you. At some point in time, okay, whether you're playing or coaching, your coach, okay, or your head coach is going to ask you to man up, okay, and play man. And when you're called on to do that, you need to have the skills to be able to do that. You don't have to do it every play, okay? I'm sure your coaches are smart enough to not do that every play, but when they do, you've got to be able to take that on and complete it and be able to do it. Okay, so the next thing that I have my guys do are my cover 2 and cover 3 drills. My philosophy on this is a little different. So you can see, I don't mind if they're square, and I don't mind if they're tilted. Again, he's bending over maybe a little too much there, okay? But again, he's got a little hunch in the back, but not bad. He's in a pretty good spot. My main thing in cover 2 and cover 3 is eyes. Where are your eyes? Okay? So in cover 2, okay, and 3, we're going to read through number 2 to the quarterback. Okay? So eyes should be in here. So when I did this drill, I was filming it with my phone. I had another person be the number 2 receiver. So they have something to look at. Okay? And that person is giving them what to do. Okay? So when they point down, okay, in our DB drills, it's a control pedal. It's like a read, taking reads. Okay? Then we point out, and that's a speed pedal. When we do our cover 2, our zone drills, okay, this is a pedal, that is a shuffle. Okay? So when you guys see this, you'll kind of understand what we're doing here. So we will still align the same way we will align in man, outside of this guy. Okay? If he happens to tilt, I tell him, look, I don't mind if you tilt, but if you tilt, just know you're giving it away a little bit. Okay? Eventually the defense is going to figure it out. Okay, we're too high. Yeah, you're not probably playing man. Okay? But you want to give that receiver the same distance no matter what. And it gets these guys to be comfortable. So here you can see the pedal, and then the shuffle, and then they take off and run. Okay? So all right now we're doing is they're just watching the drill. Okay? So pedal, again, young guy, pedal, shuffle, run. Pedal, shuffle, run. And we do that for these couple drills. I didn't put every one of them, every rep we took, okay? But I put a few on here so you guys kind of get the idea, okay? And then we add a guy, okay? So this is probably where it gets a little gray, okay? So when we pedal, shuffle, run, our eyes are on number 2. We have to feel the first receiver, okay? So right now, they are reading, if you can see, their eyes are kind of like they're looking at the camera, right? Okay, their eyes are inside, but they're feeling number 1. And they need to stay outside of number 1, okay? If number 1 gets behind them, they have no idea where that guy is at, okay? Not that they have to know, but it helps play better defense if you do know, okay? So they work to stay on that outside shoulder, okay? So you can kind of see, pedal. This guy obviously doesn't understand the drill. If you watch that again, young guy, doesn't get the drill. Old guy but late bloomer, he gets the drill. Still gets it behind him a little bit. So you guys can kind of see that, okay? So the next one, okay, is a pedal, shuffle, react. Okay, so now I am taking a receiver and he's running. He's running vertical or he's running out to the flat. Okay? So that's what these guys are doing, and they're going to react back up. Okay, so we've taught the fundamental of the pedal, shuffle, run. Okay, then we do it with a receiver running vertical on them. Then we take it and we do it with number 2 actually running something. Okay, something to read and react with. Okay. Oops. Let me show you that one. Here's another one. Pedal shuffle. The guy keeps running vertical. They turn, they're running vertical with theirs, okay? That's not deleting. All right. So here, up top, if you watch this guy right here, let me bump that. If you watch this guy right here, okay, he's got his pedal, his shuffle, and his reaction. Now the ball doesn't go to him, but you guys can see. Now you're going to see at the bottom, you know, a guy trying to be tough guy. But can you see the fundamental showing up in the film? Okay, that's a piece. All right. So my young guy who didn't get the drill earlier, like I said, he anticipates well. Okay, but he is a hair bit short on this one. Instead, decks the guy. Okay, so the reaction was well, but he was a hair bit late. Okay, and you know,
the ball, though.
What's that?
Guy drops the ball, though.
Oh, absolutely, right? As a DB coach, I'm applauding him. Okay, but I heard it by you guys know Tony Dungy. Remember, he's an NFL football coach. Doesn't matter, but he was a DB coach at the heart of things, and he said a big hit is usually because you're late. And he's right. Because if you were on time, you would have picked it off. Okay? So they get excited for hits. I get excited for hits. I like to see our guys be physical and do things. But at the same time, after I applaud them for being physical, it's like, hey, what happened? Where was your break? Well, what was wrong with the reaction? Were you late on the read? We kind of have a little bit of talk like that, and they, even the young guys don't get it, like, well, I ran over, you know? And it's like, no, you should have picked it off. And then they're like, they'll think about it, and they'll usually come to your side. But it's a mindset, okay? Here again, this is my, like I was telling you, that the brand new safety who's never played it before. You can see his alignment. He's supposed to be here. But he doesn't quite cover the fade as well as I'd like. However, he's not my point. This guy is, okay? So he's doing his pedal, his shuffle, and he gets a reaction. If that ball was thrown to the flat, he'd have been all over it. Okay? That's my purpose in showing this film, okay? Again, watch up here. Since he was open already, okay, he didn't pedal. He just went to his shuffle, okay? And he's reading number 2. And he's able to drive. And now, at the very end of the tape, can you see where he drives to? Okay? This guy ends up doing a whip. Okay? This guy runs a dig. Okay? He breaks on the dig, but finishes. Okay? These aren't erasing. Finishes on the whip. Okay? Because he's a flat defender. Right? See at the very tail end? See how he tails off there?
Yeah.
Because that's his responsibility. Okay? Now, I put this in here because this is the pedal shuffle run. Okay? He's reading this guy right here. Okay? He's gone vertical, right? What's that tell our guy? Run. Okay? Get depth. He can sink. And he's feeling, number 1, running vertical. Now, if I would have told you at the beginning of a talk that I could take a cover 2 corner and tell him to stay on top of a fade, most people wouldn't believe me. But I got to think. Now, he didn't stay on it all the way, but he's got help. Okay? And he's at least helping more than just letting the guy run free. Yeah. If the guy's running free on grass saying, well, dear God, I hope the free safety plays over the top on this, then we got a lot of praying to do each night before we go play a football game. But these two guys are squeezing things together and helping each other. We got to reduce windows as much as possible, especially in the football game we play today. You know, there are a lot of things that the offense can do to us to make us wrong. So the more we can tighten up windows and do things like that, the better off we're going to be. Again, I put this in here, not because, I don't know why this one's in here, to be honest with you. This is not cover 2. That was man.
Coach, can I ask a question
Yep.
on the previous?
Absolutely.
So he's reading number 2, or reading through number 2. Would you want him to break down and stay in the flat if you saw number 3 coming out, or would you still want him to stay on top of the fade?
Yeah, I need to show you guys. I'll draw it here as at the beginning. All right, we have a play we call Titan. Okay, our offense has a play we call Titan. It's a cover 2 buster. I mean, you can't. All we can hope on our defense is that the Mike linebacker is going to tip it. I'm going to show you where the ball's supposed to go, okay, and where the Mike linebacker's got to get in order to tip it. What they do, okay, the back would be on this side, okay, and they run this guy straight at the free. Oops, that's not very straight. Okay, straight at the free safety. Imagine that line's going through this free safety, okay, and they run this guy right under that safety into the middle of the field. Okay, so in cover 2, our free safety's got to do what? Pick. Which one are you going to pick? Okay, that's pretty daggone tough. So, to go back to your question is, the back is on this side, and the back comes out. What's the corner do? The corner has to take the back. Okay, the back is the flat. So, the free safety will, in this scenario, would say the free safety takes the immediate vertical. He's reading number 2 as well. Number 2's vertical, he's going to stay on it. That's just how it is. Okay? The corner's reading through here, he sees vertical, he'll see late the back out. And it took us probably 2 or 3 practices to finally start recognizing it. The first couple times, the back's running wide open, and they just toss it over there, and it, you know, takes a couple tongue lashings to kind of get that corrected, but once they do, it's you know, you're back in business. But where he sinks back to, if something was coming here, he would sink probably into here. He wouldn't be really in the flat; he'd be a lot deeper. But he's at least coming back into that zone, if that makes sense. Now, he missed it, okay, but this is cover 3, okay, and you can, or I'm sorry, it's cover 2, and you can see all of his fundamentals right here, okay. So pedal shuffle, ready to react, okay. So, a couple things. He's wrong. Now, why is he wrong? What did he do right here that he shouldn't have done immediately?
He turned up his hips.
Okay, he's in cover 2, so he's allowed to do that.
Okay.
He's going to open his hips up. What does his read say? What does his initial read say? Who's his read?
2. Vertical.
2. He's running vertical, so what should the corner do?
1.
He should sink and run, okay? Because if this cat pulls one of those, which he's going to, okay, that's pretty tough for the safety to always make plays when the ball's being thrown right here. Okay? So, again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to help each other out. We're trying to squeeze windows. Okay? He anticipated it well, okay, and he made a great break on it, but that's going to burn us later. Okay? Because that quarterback, if he eyes him down and he jumps it early like this, will then just throw one right over his head. Okay? For a completion right above him. Does that make sense? I don't mind, if this is the line of scrimmage, you can see where this cat is at. Okay? I don't mind making a tackle for 4.5 yards out there in cover 2. I don't mind that. Okay? I know that sounds crazy, but I will take my chances at quarterbacks doing that every time, especially with a guy who's breaking on it like that, then I'm going to get a piece of one of those. Okay? So if that's first down, then you're looking at 2nd and 10. Okay? Or 3rd and 7, or whatever. All of a sudden, those downs don't sound as good, right, as 2nd and 6, or 2nd and 5, or whatever, right? So, but my problem is I don't want to give up the deep one. Okay? I don't